If it was that country full of fighting, it could indeed be cultivated. Although he sneered at this kind of gu-raising method. Tat. Sioran thought of the killing stone recently obtained by the Ishtar family. Combined with the sudden arrival of the Kali family. All the information in his mind was connected, and he sorted out the core of the dispute. Ishtar, the goddess of prostitution. Whether it was fox magic or the fighting clan that came from afar. Obviously, they were all trump cards used by a certain goddess of beauty to pull down the queen who overlooked the city. Oh, the jealousy of the goddess is really ugly. Sioran raised a mocking smile at the corner of his mouth, and his eyes were full of indifference. However, things will not develop as you expected. What you are about to welcome is not the victory that has been prepared for a long time, but the destruction I bestow. Ishtar. After a little thought, Sioran looked at Rahul, who was worried on the opposite side, and said, "Well, I will go over." Huh. After getting the affirmation of the young man, Rahul couldn't help but let out a long breath. He dared to come here according to the order of his own main god. In the past, he never thought of facing the hero at the top of the city 730 alone. When he was taught by the sword princess of the clan, Rahul knew that the boy in front of him was not as gentle as he seemed. Even when they were sitting face to face like this, he felt a great pressure. Even the top first-level adventurers in the city had never brought him such oppression. What a terrible boy! Rahul couldn't help but sigh in his heart, and at the same time he felt relieved. Heroes will give people who travel with them a strong sense of security. This is a fact that has been proven countless times in the past. When Loki dispatched his followers, the Amazon twins were facing this battle of their own. In the deep forest, Diona kept walking in the direction pointed by Arna. She stopped until she came to a hidden cave. In front of her was a dim passage, and the internal structure could not be seen at all. The deep rocks covered the entire entrance, and the cold light reflected by it made people feel cold in their hearts. Without any hesitation, Diona chose to go in directly. The other party's goal was originally herself, even if she didn't like to use her brain, she knew it. So there is no need to think too much, just go forward as usual. When she arrived at the cave, a complex fork like an ant nest appeared in front of her. If there was no guidance, Diona would not be able to tell the direction. But the compatriots of Daukyo obviously knew this and left a mark on purpose. It was the bright red liquid produced by deliberately cutting the skin with a weapon. The cave was filled with the smell of rust and mold, which was familiar to her in the past in Tirskara. Beiji. Following the bloody mark, Diona finally arrived at the battlefield. In front of her was the cold warrior who had taught her martial arts and enlightened the hero 10. Let's fight to the death, Wei Ana. The chill in Beiji's voice enveloped the entire battlefield, and she did not hide her murderous intent. Even when facing the apprentice she had taught in the past, she would not waver in the slightest. Amazons living in Daukyo always pursue war and blood. Emotions were abandoned when they crossed over the corpses of their compatriots in the past. Behind Beiji, the young goddess was watching with the rest of her followers. Her eyes were full of expectation and blood. This was a war that had reached its end. I don't want to fight with you, Beiji. Diona looked at the warrior in front of her seriously and spoke frankly. Just like when she asked Kali, she would not hide her emotions. Like is like, hate is hate. I really shouldn't have read to you at the beginning. The cold voice sounded again, and Beiji's fighting spirit and killing intent gradually boiled. There was no reaction to the girl's words. Hearing this, the smile on Diona's face dimmed slightly. She only noticed the changes in her master at this time. Compared to before. More indifferent, and sharper. It seems that she and Algana both killed 4.5 in the same room. That is a powerful warrior who is also a candidate for the strongest with Beiji. They crossed the last corpse of their compatriot and achieved the great feat of ascending to 4.6. The bloody Battle of Daokuo has now cultivated two top cold warriors. Only fight to the death. Diona is deeply aware of this. 4.6 Sisters born by the cruel law of the Amazon country. Through the tempering of the underground maze, the twins climbed to 4.6 together with their partners. In different battlefields, life and death battles were launched at the same time. You have really grown up, Gakonyi. Inside the sailboat on the sea, Algina did not hide her joy on her face, and was happy for the strength of her opponent. After many years, the little girl was already in the same realm as herself. This made her extremely excited, and a bloodthirsty smile rose at the corner of her mouth. Dione looked at the slightly crazy warrior in front of her coldly, without saying a word. Algina has been like this since the first time they met, a cruel and indifferent warrior. At that time, Algina, who was training Dione for the first time, completely crushed the girl. This was true both physically and mentally. Don't you feel anything at all? Dione, lying in a pool of blood, stared at the powerful warrior in front of her. She finally couldn't help asking about the boredom and doubts in her heart. After countless battles, a warrior who is close to the strongest will really not be shaken by the blood of his compatriots. Then, Dione heard the answer. I ate those guys, that's all. What feeling do you need? Algina looked at the girl lying on the ground, as if she felt incredible from the bottom of her heart. She was completely different from the Amazons that Dione had seen in the past. She was a warrior who truly conformed to the cruel laws of Tirzkara. She had no hesitation, kindness, or sadness towards her own kind. She would only bite the flesh and blood of her compatriots like a beast, and then evolve. In the entire Do country, Algina's essence was closest to their main god Kali. There was nothing else except war and blood. Oh, are you still brooding over killing that guy? It's just a tribute, don't pretend to pity her. After answering the girl's question, Algina seemed to understand something and looked at her with a sneer. Dione now completely understood that the guy in front of her was fundamentally different from her. No emotions, no weaknesses, both body and mind are real monsters. Then she rushed up with anger, regardless of her seriously injured body. As expected, she was easily knocked down by Algina again. With only 4.2, she has an insurmountable gap with the strongest candidate in Do country. After Shin, who was covered in wounds, returned to the stone chamber, she still saw her sister's innocent and silly look. Why can you smile like this when I am in so much pain, Aer? Once upon a time, Shin hated her sister and hated her dazzling light. But whenever she heard some words from Amazons who were angry because of the Lord God's favor for her sister, her anger could not be calmed down, and she often ambushed the rout of Amazons who tried to attack her sister. Punch, kick, slap. Shin used all the means she learned to attack. Finally, she dragged her tired body back to the stone chamber with blood dripping. She didn't understand why she did such a thing. Obviously she was extremely resistant to that stupid smile, but she couldn't help but want to protect her. After the ceremony on the sailboat began, the battlefield on the other side was also going on at the same time. In the cave. In the fierce battle with Beiji, Shin gradually fell into a disadvantage. Although they were at the same level, there was a certain gap in combat experience and skills. The warrior in front of her was standing on the corpses of countless Amazons in Do country. Her skills in dealing with people were obviously more than one level higher than Diona's. What's more, Beiji's right hand was still wrapped in a black and purple light film, which was a crystal with a strong poison. This was a magic unique to the Cold Warrior, which had never been shown in front of her before. Like a venomous snake, it would only reveal its hideousness at a critical moment. Every fist that landed on the ground would cause white smoke to rise from it. In the previous battle, Diona was unfortunately corroded by the strong poison, which was useless even with abnormal resistance. Perhaps it was more toxic than the poison of the poisonous demon maggot, and the stinging pain from her body continued to affect her thinking. The cold poison flowed in her body, but at the same time, an inexplicable heat rose. That was a skill similar to that of the girl and her sister. Frenzy and chaos. Every time the body was damaged, the attack power would gradually increase. The degree of improvement is proportional to the injury. While enduring the pain brought by the poison, a burning sensation rose in the body. The girl's fierce punch directly tore the air in front of her. Seizing the opponent's weakness, Diona swung this powerful iron fist. She used high-speed punches to hit Beiji, and at the same time launched superb kicking skills. Facing the unexpected attack, Beiji did not dodge. At the cost of cutting a piece of flesh from her shoulder, she successfully caught Diona's right leg. Following the black and purple light fluctuations, it was a magic attack. After upgrading to 4.6, the power and range of Beiji's magic increased significantly. Maybe it can't wrap the whole body like Sword Princess, but it can force the opponent to endure pain. $77. This is what Diona noticed instantly, and then came severe pain. Pain, 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 pain. The unimaginable pain was even about to drown her consciousness. It was completely impossible to think about anything else, only the piercing pain remained. The magic that Beiji had hidden for a long time gave Dione a crucial blow. The trend of the battlefield gradually deviated. Similar to her sister's situation, Dione kept retreating in front of Algina, whose skills and ability values were better than hers. Moreover, the opponent also had a magic that was like a curse, Black Goddess. By absorbing the enemy's blood, her own ability values were greatly improved. It seemed to respond to Algina's philosophy. Devour flesh and blood, and gain evolution. In the past struggles, the brutal warriors used this magic to continuously cross the high walls. This is the magic that makes her sister fear from the bottom of her heart. Facing a powerful enemy, Algina never fears, but will be happy and fanatical about it. After all, the stronger the opponent is, the more evolution she will get after swallowing their flesh and blood. Only by bathing in the blood of the strong can the ultimate sublimation be achieved. This is the strongest beast in the Do Kingdom. You will be eaten here by me, Dione. Oh, by the way, if Beiji loses, I will eat Dione too. Ha 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 ha. Crack, crack, crack. That was the sound of something breaking deep in the soul. Dione's vision turned bright red, and the blood in her body was roaring wildly. The boiling breath flowed through it, and her wheat-colored skin turned red at this moment. Yingji's reason gradually broke, and only the terrifying killing intent remained. Kill her. Absolutely. Regardless of her severely injured arm, the girl punched her opponent's face fiercely. The unexpected attack hit directly. Red liquid kept dripping from Algina's face. Dione, who was soaked in blood in front of her, was like a mad snake. Using all her previous skills and experience, she bit her opponent's vitals with precision and violence. Even Dione herself couldn't understand why she was so angry. Just a fool who can only smile foolishly. But when she heard Algina's words, the murderous intent and anger in her heart burned like a raging flame. When she thought that smile might disappear, her heart seemed to be bitten by a poisonous snake. She was much more depressed than when she lost Tsurutas, and the surging heat completely ignited the girl's passion. Try to touch that fool. I will definitely make you die ugly. With every word she uttered, Dione gradually understood the feelings in her heart. She did hate that dazzling smile, but she was also saved by that smile. In the process of gradually falling into the abyss, it was she who allowed herself to retain the remaining sanity. She did not completely turn into a beast chasing Struggle and Scarlet. That fool was the only light that had never been extinguished in her past dark world. 5.8. You sisters are really different. Algina seemed to compare them with her sisters. In the cruel kingdom of cannibalism, there is a miracle of such a bond between sisters. Even a cold-blooded woman like her felt a little surprised at this moment. Then, as if she remembered something, Algana continued. By the way, let me tell you. Tiona has been protecting you. Young Tiona will become a true warrior of Tears Kula without any accident. She has the possibility of becoming the strongest warrior. The girl, who is indifferent to everything, has decided to follow her instincts. Pursue the desire for battle in her blood. However, when Tiona saw Shin crying in the stone chamber, a kind of passionate emotion sprouted in her heart. I have to protect her. It's not pity, nor sympathy. It's more like destiny. She is another self. And protecting yourself is natural. Since then, Tiona has been taking the initiative, started a fight and ruthlessly took the life of the girl in the same room. All to prevent her only blood relative from being lost in the cruel law of Tears Kara. Finally met Hero 10. It made her become a berserker who showed an innocent smile but took the lives of her compatriots without mercy. Tiona knew very well that the person who pulled her was her sister Shin. It was she who gave her a reason not to fall into the vortex of fighting. Therefore, twins with a miraculous bond appeared in the cruel fighting country. Tiona shines on her sister like the sun, and Shin tolerates her sister like the moon. The sun will give light to the moon, and the moon will give back the sun's tenderness. These are the Amazon twins of Loki's family. They have supported each other and supported themselves since childhood. They are originally one. Chapter 97, Pure Berserker. After hearing Algana tell about the past she never knew, Shin finally knew. She thought she was the one supporting her sister, but she was the one being protected. The two of them used their own clumsy ways to redeem each other. What a fool, you think you are my hero. Having said that, Shin's face showed a smile from the heart. The lines of determination have never been so soft as they are now. The always proud Yingja felt very happy for some reason. Even though she always lived with that fool in the past. But she didn't feel that they really communicated with each other until today. They have relied on each other since Tears Kara, and now they seem to be real sisters. The souls of the sun and the moon have merged for the first time, and it needs more words. It is not simply from blood, but the transmission of emotions has been truly unimpeded. Shin never thought that one day she would be protected by that fool. Obviously she is the older sister, and she should protect her younger sister. But the fact is that innocent smile is indeed protecting me in the dark. Title: Will I treat myself as a princess and wait for the hero to rescue me? Eat shit. The enemy can only be defeated by myself, and Iona must be protected by myself. Thinking of this, the hot breath flows in the body, no longer the simple anger as before. It is a kind of tenacity, which is the meaning of protection that the Amazon hero understands for the first time. She will never allow that silly smile to disappear. She will never let go of any enemy who tries to extinguish her light. Argana. I will kill you. Dione looked at the enemy in front of her seriously, and the breath of color came out of her mouth. At this moment, her heart was unusually calm, as if she was just telling a daily thing. However, the determination contained in the words made the air stagnate. At the same time, the breath on her body was rapidly skyrocketing, and the surroundings seemed to have reflected a touch of bright red. The more endangered the beast is, the more dangerous it is. Great counterattack. When in desperate situation, Shin will activate this special skill. Highly correct the ability parameters when dying, the more there is no way to retreat, the stronger it will be. At this moment, understand the emotions that have been accumulated in your heart, the hero facing the threat of death. On the contrary, it is unprecedentedly terrifying. Feeling the murderous aura from Shin, Algana's spine flashed a chill. She, who has experienced many battles, naturally knows the girl's current state. Even though she is covered with wounds, she is much stronger than when she was intact. The intuition gained from countless battles is constantly reminding her. What she will face next is the real claws of the beast. This is the time for the angry snake who is forced into a desperate situation to accumulate strength for the final kill. On the other side of the battlefield, Shin's smooth face is full of cold sweat, and her brows can't help but frown. Black and purple lines gradually rise on her wheat-colored skin. The poison inflicted by Beiji made her unable to think anymore. Her body's mobility was greatly reduced, and she was about to reach the edge of collapse. Diona, who was in a daze, seemed to see her younger self. At that time, she was undergoing inhuman and cruel training from her teacher. The boredom of the past chest blockage and the pain of the constant abuse of her body. She was sitting in the stone chamber crying non-stop, both physically and mentally injured. Diona just stared at her younger self blankly. Facing the desperate situation woven by Beiji, there was a moment when she thought of giving up. Just like she planned to choose to indulge in the instinctive struggle at the beginning. But every time at this time, there would always be a figure to force herself back. "Don't lose to me, Diona." The girl's ears still echoed with her sister's words before they parted. Thinking of the tenderness that always tolerated her, Diona walked to her younger self. Picked up the book that fell at her feet and put it back in the hands of the crying little girl. "Try harder, okay? I can feel that Dione hasn't given up yet. FFFLX. Although it really hurts, please bear with me for a while." Afterwards, Dione's gradually sinking consciousness returned, and there was a dazzling light in her eyes. She still had that pure and innocent smile on her face. "I want to laugh. As long as I laugh, one day Dione will also laugh at me. I want to laugh and drive away all the sad things. No matter how much ridicule I face, no matter what desperate situation I am in, I will face it with a smile. I want to laugh with her, and help those who can't laugh to laugh together." This is after seeing that fragile broken face and encountering that accidental story. It has been decided long ago. It doesn't hurt at all. Facing Beiji's surprised eyes, Dione laughed cheerfully. Ignoring the pain of biting her flesh and blood, she ignored the gradually weakening limbs. The Amazon girl just showed this innocence as usual. Always face all kinds of desperate situations with an innocent smile, and then, cross them. Pure berserker. It is the most appropriate to describe Diona. She is not as smart as her sister, and she can't learn to think too much. She is just a fool who can only fight, and she doesn't know what strategy is. So just be like usual. Since you are a fool, then carry it through to the end. No matter what is blocking me in front, I will smash it all. Whew. Red breath appeared from the corner of Diona's mouth, which was the burning heat brought by high temperature. Even if it was a poison that was enough to paralyze the nerves, it could not resist the girl's current surging surge. With the continuous surging heat, Diona gradually regained control of her limbs. The burning fighting spirit brought a touch of heat to the cold and dim cave. Big heat fight. The conditions are exactly the same as those of Dione, and the effect is the same. The twins with similar natures launched their own counterattacks in desperate situations. The opposite Beiji couldn't help the horror in her heart. He looked solemnly at the disciple in front of him who was emitting a strong sense of oppression. If it were the other poisoned warriors in Daokyo, they would have lay down directly. But the girl in front of him was completely the opposite. His poison seemed to make her even more terrifying. Seeing this innocent smile as always. Thinking of the little girl with the red face who listened to his story carefully. Beiji, who stepped over the bodies of countless compatriots, was actually shaken in his heart. Can he really win? When the twins' battlefield was about to be decided, Sioran arrived at the port at the same time. Today's Milan is no longer as lively and peaceful as before. There is chaos and panic everywhere. The reason is naturally the battle currently taking place in the port. Not long ago, a group of adventurers who concealed their identities attacked the Loki family again. Since they had just finished the expedition, the girls who came to the port did not carry their own weapons. They all left them at the blacksmith for maintenance, so they could not exert their full combat power. The attacker seemed to see this and dared to take the initiative to attack. Loki and his friends who were originally planning to look for the Kali family were temporarily stopped by others. On the current battlefield, Isai was fighting with an adventurer wearing heavy armor. The girl was not holding her beloved sword that she carried with her every day, but a spare rapier. She was obviously unable to exert her strength. But despite this, she still relied on her extraordinary talent and superb sword skills. She beat the armored adventurer back step by step. The opponent's full body armor was covered with wounds under the swift attack of the sword princess. Furinai Jamil, is she really a member of the Ishtar clan? After instantly judging the situation on the field, Sioran understood whose family this was. The opponent's superficial cover-up naturally could not hide it from him. Even Isai, who was fighting with him, gradually learned the identity of the enemy. There was only one adventurer with this size and strength in the whole of Orario. But what surprised Sioran a little was, when did that toad have the strength to fight against his own apprentice? Even if Isai could not exert her full combat power, she was not something that Wri could stop. After taking a quick look at Freni, he discovered that there were fluctuations of magic on her body. Previously, he felt disgusted by this ugly guy, so he didn't pay attention to her. Now he looked over and found the state of the toad. It seems that it is a temporary enhancement magic, which can even increase its own level. This is one of the trump cards that Ishtar dares to challenge Freya's family. You are here, Sioran. The royal elf approached elegantly, interrupting the boy's thoughts. When Finn was not there, Livalia was in charge of the command of the port. She didn't bring her own magic wand now, but she was not panicked at all. The attacker in front of him was just hiding his identity, so the royal elf could certainly ignore him. Although he was a little confused as to why the people of Ishtar's family were involved with the Kali family. But he didn't delve too deeply into it, as long as he knew that they were his enemies. It's been a while, Livalia. Rahul told me everything about this place, no wonder Loki asked me to come. Sioran responded gently to the royal elf, and then quickly checked the surrounding situation. Really high. He could clearly sense the breath of the girls. Two of them were particularly hot, shining like stars in the night. Exuding amazing high pitch and passionate fighting spirit, they were obviously two heroes of Loki's family. This must be the reason why Loki sent Rahul here. Tiona is easy to deal with, it is not difficult to stop her from fighting. But Chin is obviously different, and it is not someone that others can approach. Even if he has never been to the battlefield of the twins, Sioran can clearly sense their current state. Especially the proud angry snake, now as sharp as when they first met. It is precisely because of the current situation that Rocky specifically asked him to come. In the blink of an eye, Sioran scanned the entire battlefield and instantly knew the intention of the red-haired goddess. She is really an old fox, but he doesn't care. It is rare to see the twins in this state, and he still has some nostalgia. So he doesn't mind coming to play with the people of the Kali clan, and at the same time it is considered to be a favor for Freya's past title of the God Assembly. Please, she ran. Like Loki, I am a little worried about Shin. The royal elf who understood the deep meaning of the Lord God looked at the boy in front of him seriously. Now he is the only one who can call back the sanity of the family heroes. Don't worry, just leave it to me. I seem to be good at being a hero and saving the beauty. After joking with Livalia skillfully, Sioran locked onto the battlefield of the twins. The sailboats on the sea and the deep caves. How could the hero appear here? Freni, retreat. Among the crowd blocking Loki's family at the port, Uren first noticed the black-haired Shayazun not far away. Then he reminded Freni, who was somewhat in a frenzy. The old grudges and the previous battles were always suppressed by the Sword Princess. The ugly face and voice of the man-killer are now even more distorted. He was completely immersed in the battle with the blonde girl until he heard the voice of the team members. Damn ugly monster, damn hero. The remaining sanity returned. Even though she was very unwilling, Frynai knew that the current situation had completely tilted. The seemingly thin black-haired boy has the absolute power to suppress everything. The rest of the Ishtar clan had already lost their fighting spirit after hearing that exclamation. No matter what their emotions were, they didn't want to be enemies with the strongest in the city. So the chaotic battlefield soon stopped. Flinny led the members of his clan to evacuate decisively. Sioran noticed their movements but didn't care. Anyway, this clan was about to disappear. The most important thing at the moment was the two battlefields that were about to decide the outcome. As for the Ishtar clan in front of him, there was no need to care. His target was the sister god, the jealous goddess of beauty was the root of everything. Most of her members were just tools that couldn't resist the charm of the goddess of beauty. There was no need to waste time on them. Then when Sioran turned his sight to a certain tall building, a pair of eyes met his eyes. It was a fox girl. There was surprise flashing in her emerald pupils, and there seemed to be a hint of expectation in the deeper part. Even the silk scarf could not hide the beauty underneath. After a brief encounter, Sioran confirmed her identity, and the silent girl said a word. Then, without any hesitation, she headed for the sailboat on the sea. Picture shows Diona. Chapter 98 The Longed-for Fairy Tale. At this time, the battle on the ship was coming to an end, and the warriors who had exhausted their skills and strength were about to reach their limits. Their bodies were covered with scars left by their opponents, but their faces did not waver at all. They had experienced this level of injuries countless times in the Daokuo. Of course, they would not be affected. The only thing left in the ship was the fighting spirit and killing intention of the fierce confrontation. After a fierce offensive and defensive battle, both sides tacitly chose to stop temporarily. It was not to end the battle, but to accumulate their own killing moves to win. The two dying beasts were about to complete the final fight. The side close to the bow. Dione was silently adjusting her body, and her vision was filled with bright red. Up to now, the battle had been completely based on instinct. She knew that the next key blow would inevitably cause someone to fall forever. Therefore, there was no meaningless communication, but simply accumulating strength. Come on, Dione. It doesn't matter if I swallow you or you eat me. Let's become the strongest warriors in Do Nation together. On the other side, Algana, whose body was equally horrible, still had a bloodthirsty smile on her face. To be honest, she didn't expect that she would fight with the little girl she used to be. The other party's growth rate far exceeded her imagination. In just a few years, she caught up with herself who kept surpassing. It's incredible, it's really exciting. Algana doesn't care who will win the battle. It doesn't matter if it's her or Dione. Eating the flesh and blood accumulated by the strong man until now, to achieve the ideal warrior at the end. That's all. This is what she has always pursued. It's so noisy, so noisy, so noisy. Hearing the crazy voice of the opponent, Dione's heart was filled with murderous intent and anger. What the strongest warrior, she has never been interested in it. She just hopes that the smile on that idiot's face will not disappear. She just longs for a hug from her lover. This monster in front of her is trying to destroy everything that is most precious to her. I can't tolerate it, I must kill her. The girl's pure murderous intent is boiling together with the accumulated power. There are no extra thoughts in her mind, only the determination to take the life of the enemy in front of her. Facing the punishment the hero in this state. Neither the Lord God nor the companions of the clan can stop it. But if someone can really stop it, there is only one left besides her sister. the boy who gave her her first defeat when she first entered Orario and took away the hero's body and mind. That's enough, Shin. The moment the gentle voice sounded here, Shin's fist that had been ready for a long time couldn't help but tremble. The consciousness that was addicted to its own instinctive killing gradually returned. The girl looked at the source of the sound involuntarily. Come closer. The handsome face engraved in the soul is standing softly beside her. Still wearing that refreshing smile, deep eyes were shining with admiration and praise. The girl subconsciously called out the name she had called countless times before. But she had never been as confused as she was now. The girl, who had never thought that he would appear here, actually felt like she was dreaming for a moment. Who are you? Not only was Dione stunned, but the bloodthirsty Algana was also unbelievable. Their current location was far away from the port in the sea. Except for the lights of the watchtower, nothing else could reach here. It was because of this that Alna chose it as the venue for the final ceremony. On the arena without interference, the strongest warrior of the Do country was decided. It should have been like this. However, a young man suddenly appeared on the sailboat floating on the sea. This unreasonable situation made the usually cold and cruel warrior unable to suppress his horror. How did you get up here? Huh? Of course I just walked up like this. Facing the scene he had seen too many times in the past, Sioran was a little bored. But it was just to move the ship away from the port, not a place that could not be reached. Even if it was anchored in the underworld, he could easily cross the boundary between life and death. Without paying too much attention to the Amazon opposite, Sioran carefully looked at the familiar girl. Ha ha ha, I haven't seen Dione in this state for a long time. The boy's hearty smile deeply shook Yingji's heart. A trace of clarity flashed in Dione's blood-red eyes. Then, as if realizing something, he lowered his head slightly. No. Don't look at me like this. I didn't expect Shin to be so forgetful. Seeing the rare cowardice of the heroic girl, Sioran smiled slightly. It was rare to see her like this. Then he walked forward. He didn't care about the blood on Shin's body and held her in his arms. The moment the soft body was in his arms, it was obviously a little stiff, but it softened immediately. The warrior who was full of vigor before restrained his edge in the familiar warmth. Looking at the unusually quiet hero in his arms, Sioran raised her chin frivolously and peeled off the girl's messy hair. Then he whispered. Is there anything wrong with you now? Aren't you as beautiful as when we first met? Shin. The boy's straightforward words constantly soothed the girl's passionate killing intent. At the same time, Shin's past memories couldn't help but roll. That was when the twins first came to the Labyrinth City. After leaving Tirskara where they had lived for a long time, they walked through mountains, lakes, grasslands, and enjoyed scenery they had never seen before. Len Emo rejected the invitations of all the families on the journey until they came to Orario, the center of the world. Because they already had the strength of 4.3, the guild's review was quite strict. For unfamiliar superior adventurers, the guild was worried that they might be spies from outside forces. Therefore, they would review them repeatedly. Then after going through complicated entry procedures, Diona and Dione were finally released. Tall city walls, dense downtown, majestic buildings. Everything deeply shocked the twins who had just arrived in the city. Adventurers carrying various protective gear and weapons also made them particularly curious. The two sisters who had lived in Daokyo since childhood. Apart from the travels on the way, where have they seen such a colorful world? But one thing is the same, that is, the malice and kindness intertwined around them. Even if they are dressed tightly, their identity as Amazons is still easy to identify. In addition, the sisters' appearance is already very outstanding. Therefore, there are always malicious eyes looking at them frequently. Noticing these eyes, Dione stared back without giving in. As an Amazon warrior with pride and dignity, she never showed the weakness of ordinary women. Facing all kinds of malicious eyes, the girl fought back with cold killing intent. However, since Dione and Diona are adventurers who have just come to Aurario, no one knows their true strength, so many people still look at them fearlessly. In addition, the long journey has left them with little money. The twins are now in a dilemma even to maintain a basic life. Some experienced adventurers have already noticed this and are ready to make a move. Just when an adventurer couldn't hold back his reverie and tried to approach him, a slender figure walked over leisurely and threw him away. Obviously, there was a gentle smile on the handsome face of the young man. But the onlookers only felt the coldness from the bottom of their hearts. Under the shocking momentum, all those with malicious intentions retreated. After sending away the peeping adventurers, the boy looked at the tense girl with interest. It seems that you have just arrived in Aurario. Sisters who support each other are really interesting and beautiful. It was just the first contact, but the other party seemed to have seen through her and her sister completely. Dione felt unhappy for no reason. When she saw this boy before, she thought she had met a god. But when she looked at him so closely, she found the difference in him. Although he has a similar appearance to a god, or even more. However, the aura he exudes is obviously different, with a special sense of affinity. Although I feel a little uncomfortable that the boy can see through my heart directly. But it is undeniable. When facing him, the vigilance and precautions developed in Daokuo. They all lowered their guard slightly, especially that idiot. Unlike herself who is always angry, Dione can clearly perceive the kindness or malice conveyed by others. It is precisely because of its purity that it can reflect the essence of the other party. From the moment the boy appeared, Diona stared at him with bright eyes, as if she saw some treasure. The naive berserker didn't know what kind of emotions were stirring in her heart at the moment. She only knew one thing, that she didn't hate the good-looking boy in front of her. The other party always exuded a sense of intimacy. This made Diona feel very kind instinctively. Compared with her sister who was given for free, Dione still didn't completely let down her guard. Even though the other party had helped them out before. But the vigilance that had been cultivated for a long time could not be let down so easily. Therefore, Dione maintained the same attitude as always and said to the boy angrily, "Get out of the way. I just came here, so I understand your ideas to some extent. This is also an aid from outsiders." The boy didn't care about the fierce eyes of the Amazon hero, and handed the bag to her sister. He naturally saw that the proud girl in front of him would not accept it. So he handed it to the very understanding sister next to him. What is this, pity? Although she knew that the other party didn't mean that, Shin still rejected the boy's kindness. Facing the constant gazes since entering the city, Shin was already irritated. The boy's unconscious behavior and the way he spoke before completely angered her. Afterwards, Shin, who was stimulated, decisively challenged. Only fighting can calm the restlessness flowing in her blood. In addition, she also wanted to scare away the thin boy in front of her. The first time facing the kindness of others, Shin subconsciously chose to refuse. All along, she and Shin have been relying on each other. I don't know how to deal with the kindness of others. The proud hero can't become weak, so he tried to drive away the boy in front of him in this way. Unexpectedly, he accepted it. The battle behind. No, to be precise, it's more like playing, which once again exceeded Shin's expectations. The boy's hands are white and slender, and they look so weak and powerless. But it was this pair of seemingly fragile hands that blocked her continuous attacks. Not only did he have no advantage in strength, the various fighting skills he had learned in the Daokuo were also useless. All his attacks were easily taken by the opponent. The smile that had made her feel irritated before now seemed a little dazzling. The level difference was too big, he was far stronger than Arna. Shin was completely sure of this in her heart. In her life in Tirzkara before, the strongest person she had ever seen was that ruthless monster. But even that guy had never made her feel so powerless. He couldn't compare to him at all. Who on earth was he? For the first time, Yingzhe had an interest in the opposite S**X, and a burning sensation gradually rose in his chest. Oh, very energetic. But I still have something to do, so I won't play with you. The boy's gentle words called back the girl's gradually scattered thoughts. Shin first felt a gentle force coming at her. And when she came to her senses, she was already sitting on the ground. As the other party said, the so-called battle before was actually more like a game. This entertaining battle came to an abrupt end. The Amazon hero who came to the Maze City for the first time tasted the taste of defeat here for the first time. But for some reason, Shin didn't feel angry. The emotions surging in his chest were completely opposite to anger. Unlike the feeling of being angry in the past, now it was a kind of heat that burned the blood. The instinctive desire to fight and the bright red appeal were all suppressed by him. The boy's perfect face, shining depth, and freely scattered hair. Everything was reflected in Yingzhe's eyes and engraved in his boiling heart. Goodbye, interesting Amazon twins. I look forward to your future activities. The boy's move at this moment seemed to be impulsive. After completing what he wanted to do, he turned around and left decisively. What's your name? Dione tightly grasped the plumpness on the left, trying to slow down the beating heart. But the excitement rising in her chest made her unable to help asking the boy's name. Soon, she got the answer. Xiaoran, good Zhao, I met him again in that famous tavern. I thought it was the bad habits of the family werewolves that provoked some unknown adventurers. She didn't take it seriously at first. When she walked over with her sister, she found that it was the figure she had been thinking about day and night. A year has passed since they met, but he has not changed at all since they first met. The handsome face still had a smile that made her heart beat. It was also at that time that Dione realized that he had not even received a favor before. No wonder in the first year of coming to the Labyrinth City. She had almost asked all the families but had never heard his name. In the end, she was annoyed by those inexplicable families. She set up the ring, and at the same time hoped to see the boy who defeated her again. In the end, she did not expect to join the Loki family by mistake. But it doesn't matter, as long as they meet again now. Seeing this familiar smiling face, the blood in Dione's body was cheering, and her heart was also jumping. The anger that overflowed on the surface in the past disappeared completely. It's him. He is the partner I want, and the Amazon girl confirmed her admiration at this moment. As beautiful as when we first met. The boy's gentle words easily broke Yingzhe's tough heart in the past. No matter when, he can always see through his weakness directly. I still want to maintain the best image in front of my lover. If that's the case, then there's nothing I can do about it. It's really unlike me to become a princess waiting to be rescued by a hero. However, when it really happens, it seems to be better than I imagined before. In fact, Dione is a little bit yearning for that kind of plot. Really, just a little bit. The fantasy story that Dione often reads to herself in the stone chamber. The fairy tale of the hero saving the princess. Because now she has the man she loves. Pictured is Algana. Chapter 99, Consider yourself. What are you kidding me? Keep fighting, Dione. Seeing the scene in front of her, Algana's tone was full of tyranny and anger. Since the appearance of this strange male, the battle situation has become completely uncontrollable. The ceremony she carefully prepared and the stage specially built for this purpose were completely destroyed by him. The warriors who pursued Struggle and Scarlet could not stand the current situation. Now Dione's face is basically the expression of an ordinary girl. That kind of weak, female face. No longer a warrior, nor a revenger burning with anger. Just an ordinary woman. The hero who had fought happily with her before turned into this in the blink of an eye. Unacceptable, unacceptable. Continue the ceremony. Don't get in the way, weak human race. Algana stared at the black-haired boy who interrupted the death fight with a fierce look. She did not feel a trace of oppression from the other party. So she ignored the process of the boy coming to the sailboat on the sea. Just treat him as a weak male. In today's lower world, the race that is most despised by other subhumans is the dwarfs. In addition, humans are also at a disadvantage compared to other races. It's just far less embarrassing than the current situation of the dwarves. They don't have the natural sharp intuition of orcs. They don't have the strong basic strength and durability of the dwarves. They can't be compared with the elves who are favored by the gods and have magical talents. They are also not as good as the Amazons with superb fighting skills. Before Sioran appeared, most of the adventurers standing at the top were subhumans of other races. The black and white elves of Freya's family 4.6, the pigmen of 4.7, the catmen of 4.6. After all, there are only a few outstanding human girls like Alice and Kaguya. And the dwarves are even rarer. Except for the brave Finn. Only the 4 warriors of the flame gold of Freya's family have a resounding name. Therefore, Algana looked down on the weak male in front of her. He did have a deceptive face. But his thin body did not look like a strong warrior at all. It was ridiculous that Dione would be attracted to such a male. The anger of the ceremony being forced to be interrupted burned Algana's rational string. She now just wanted to tear the troublemaker in front of her to pieces, and then continue the fight. It's been a long time since I heard these 2 words. The words of the Amazon in front of him made Sioran's mouth curl up. Since he stood at the top of the maze city, everyone looked at him with awe and admiration. Except for his own girl, most of the other adventurers did not even have the courage to face themselves. And now there is an Amazon who said that he is weak. Such a rare scene made him feel a little inexplicably interesting. Algana, you have become weaker. Facing the provocation of the former teacher, Dione just looked at her indifferently. Normally, if someone dared to speak to the boy in this tone, she would get mad. But now, she only looked at her compatriots with a little pity. After losing their minds, even the most basic intuition disappeared. No, he was completely hiding. Shin looked at the boy she had identified, and she didn't feel any threat from him at the moment. If she didn't know his true strength, she would be fooled by his handsome appearance. She knew what kind of exaggerated power was contained in the seemingly thin body in front of her. That was the strongest power that could suppress the entire maze city. Consider your own strength, Amazons of the Kali clan. Sensing the undisguised hostility around him, Sioran said indifferently. The moment the voice fell, the sailing ship lost its movement. Terrible pressure enveloped the entire sailboat, and all the members of the Kali clan fell on the board. The suffocating magic power strangled their necks tightly, and their wheat-colored skin turned red. The steel fists and fierce feet that they were proud of in the past were useless. They could only struggle under this invisible pressure, including Algana, the strongest among them. It was just a simple release of a little breath, and the Korean fighters could not resist it. Even though they had always only been fighting, they understood something at this moment. There was an insurmountable gap between them and the boy in front of them. The boy's powerful strength coldly tore apart the pride and dignity in the blood of the Kali clan. Ruthlessly made them look down. Let's go, Onyi. Tiona is still waiting for us. There was no interest in paying attention to Algana's unbelievable eyes. Sioran hugged Tiona and prepared to leave. Before leaving, he looked at the Amazons who fell to the ground for the last time. Don't bother them again. Otherwise I will destroy your Lord God together. The words without any reverence for the gods struck the hearts of the members of the Kali clan hard. Although the boy's tone was gentle, everyone felt the will contained in it. No one would question the authenticity of his words. Dione's eyes were shining in his arms, and he hugged his sweetheart tightly. If it weren't for the current bad state, she would have shown the surging waves in her heart. Seeing their reactions, he suddenly understood. He knew the character of the Amazon in front of him, so he left this warning for this purpose. It seems that even the beasts chasing the struggle have instinctive fear. Now they have lost their will to fight, and they will probably not harass the twin sisters again in the future. Although Sioran doesn't like to attack women. But if they are sure to be enemies with him, there will be no mercy and hesitation. As long as they are enemies, he will destroy them completely. Dione and Diona were his people, so he would care about these things. Otherwise, he would be happy to see Loki in a headache. Who told that guy to always try to hinder his careful teaching of her followers? Then without wasting time, they rushed directly to the battlefield on the other side. The death fight in the current cave was also at the decisive moment. The heat from the heart constantly stimulated Diona's nerves and limbs. In a desperate situation, on the verge of death, she was growing rapidly. The terrifying red breath rose on the surface of her body, and her wheat-colored skin turned red. Under the activation of the great heat fight, the girl's speed and endurance began to rise continuously. Diona ignored the pain from all parts of her body, and only had an excited and high-pitched fighting spirit. Completely opposite to her sister's boiling murderous intent, she only had the determination to defeat the warrior in front of her. From the beginning of the battle, she had never brought a trace of murderous intent. I am no longer the same as before. I have a real family, and I met Ace, Livalia, and the Argonauts. Ha! The pure berserker was using his iron fist to smash the poison on Beiji's body. It's useless. The pain of the opponent's poisonous bite was completely suppressed by his own heat. Even in the deadly battle, the smile on Diona's face never disappeared. Compared to this simple pain, her sister's fragile appearance at the time made her feel more powerless. Dione is still trying, how can she fall down like this? She must win, and can only win. She wants to win this battle and return to her home. Unlike the high-spirited Diona, Beiji has reached her limit. No matter how many times the toxin is injected into the opponent's body, it cannot make him fall. The former apprentice is now like a peak with no visible top. No matter how much blow he has experienced, he always stands here. You have become so strong. Seeing this familiar innocent smile in front of her, Beiji seemed to sigh in her heart. It was also like a kind of relief. She was completely different from Diona and Dione, who had a miracle bond. Her sister was a real monster. Regardless of her terrifying strength or her extremely cold will. She didn't look like a human at all. She knew the rules of the Daokuo and had lived in the shadow of that monster since she was a child. For this reason, she kept pursuing strength, hoping that one day she would not die at the hands of Algana. So she froze all her emotions and remained cold enough to deal with everything. I didn't expect that she would not die at the hands of her sister in the end, but at your hands. The wounds left by the berserker were all over Beiji's body, and her consciousness began to fall. The world in front of her gradually dimmed, but there was an unusually obvious light in the gradually fading picture. The opposite, BFFF, Diona was like a flame, burning everything of her. It was so dazzling and so hot. Tiona, ah. With all kinds of mixed emotions in her chest, Beiji showed her last fangs. She planned to inject all the remaining venom into her opponent's body. This was a life and death blow. I'm coming, Beiji. Tiona, who was in a frenzy, did not lose her mind. She seized the wrist that was not covered by Beiji's magic at the right time and swiftly dodged the fangs of the venomous snake. Then she poured everything she had into the steel fist of her right hand. Ha! The iron fist of burning will hit the enemy's abdomen with the strongest posture. Bang! With a dull bang, the death fight came to an end. Beiji, who was hit hard, staggered forward a few steps and then fell down. Before the vision disappeared, the innocent smile was still seen. You won, Diona. In the second before falling, the always indifferent warrior had no reluctance in his heart. Instead, he had a kind of relief and admiration. You are the real warrior. You are the real warrior. After the winner was decided, the Amazon in the cave loudly supported the winner. Just like in the arena of Daokuo in the past, only those who survived are qualified to enjoy the honor. Wonderful. You are worthy of being the child that I value most. However, the ceremony is not over yet. Next, take the life of the loser, Ona. Kali clapped his hands, his eyes full of passion and appreciation. It seems that he is very satisfied with the current result. No. Without any hesitation, Tiona rejected the request of the former Lord God. I am no longer a warrior. I am an adventurer now. The same is true for Shin. We are different from before, Kali. The girl's firm will resounded in the cave, and the surrounding Amazons fell silent. The sights cast at them were all incredible. It seemed that they could not understand Tiona's behavior at the moment. The winner devours the flesh and blood of the loser and goes higher. This is the law of Tears Kara. The girl's choice against common sense broke their inherent cognition. So. You have changed too. Kali's face showed an inexplicable loss, but soon she put on her old smile again. But no one can stop the battle between Jin and Algana, and one of them will be defeated. And you, I want no one will die, and you can't take anyone away. A cold voice suddenly sounded in the cave, and the master's will seemed to completely suppress Kali's will at this time. Argonauts? Shin. Shin looked at Sioran and his sister in his arms with surprise. The girl, bathed in bright red, looked at the familiar figure with burning eyes. Shin really hasn't changed. Sioran admired the scarred girl in front of him. The smile on her face was exactly the same as when she first entered Orario. The same purity, the same dazzling. The high will to fight bloomed on her. But her face was innocent, which was the unique charm of the girl in the past. 1 month after coming to this world, he accidentally met the twins in the Maze City. The younger sister's face was full of purity, while the older sister was full of anger and vigilance. Although the sisters seemed completely different, Sioran easily saw through their essence. Rely on each other and support each other. The light hidden in the depths of the soul, he could feel it without deliberately exploring. Therefore, as a newcomer to Orario, he chose to lend a helping hand without hesitation. He and the two sisters have since been destined to be together. Ahaha. Faced with the boy's frank praise, Una scratched her head with a silly smile. She didn't know how to respond, but she knew that she was very happy now. He is indeed an Argonaut. He saved Dione and now he is here again. It is exactly the same as the fairy tale he read at the beginning, and it is also similar to the first time he met. He saved them again. Who are you? Faced with the sudden intruder, Kali seemed very surprised. This place was carefully arranged by her, and she didn't expect to be disturbed. Sioran was not interested in answering her doubts, and looked carefully at the young goddess in front of him. Blood and war, the goddess who pursues disputes. Your divine will not come true, Kali. I will hand you over to Loki, she should be happy. Before the goddess could react, the Amazons in the cave lost consciousness and fell to the ground. Then Sioran tied Kali up with a rope and left her aside. The female warrior who sealed her divine power was just an ordinary little girl, so she naturally couldn't resist him. Hey! Brat, tell me everything you know. Loki stared at the petite goddess tied to the chair fiercely. If it wasn't the wrong time, she really wanted to beat up the female warrior in front of her. Also, you have to promise me not to let your people cause trouble for Dione and the others again. Especially the Amazon named Algana. Remembering the business. Loki then spoke to Kali unceremoniously, asking her to restrain her followers. But for some reason, he heard the name mentioned by the red-haired goddess. The goddess of war who used to wear a playful smile seemed to have become a salted fish that had lost her dreams. Argana is already useless. Not only her, except for Beiji, the Amazons who were defeated by that man are no longer able to do so. Kali seemed to have suffered a huge blow, and her red eyes were dim. The smile that usually rose at the corner of her mouth disappeared, and she became extremely depressed. Loki and her followers looked at each other, unable to understand why the culprit of this riot became like this. In the end, they were all women. I have never seen a man in Tirskara before. How dare you talk about Dione? I have to become like that too. If my sister becomes like that, Beiji will have no reason to fight. A concubine's paradise was destroyed by that man. Kali leaned on the chair without a soul, muttering something. The light in her eyes had long since disappeared, and she looked at the ground lifelessly. The picture shows Beiji. The author took her family to a physical examination a few days ago, and there will be a follow-up examination on Monday. I can't be calm during this period, sorry friends. Chapter 100, Solo to Duo. What are you whispering about, little brat? Also, my children don't like to see their own kind killing each other. Let those children in Tirskara who don't want to participate in the ceremony go. Loki looked at the guy in front of him who seemed to overlap with a certain figure with an impatient look on his face. Although they were completely different in personality, they were exactly the same in making her angry. They were both irritating dwarfs. If I said that, wouldn't the children have left? Are you a fool? Loki's mouth twitched as Kali looked at him with a "you are a fool" expression. Tirskara, which was always filled with scarlet and fighting, perfectly matched the expectations of the goddess of war. It was because she saw the conflict that was about to happen that she stayed in that peninsula country for this reason. If she said all those who don't want to participate in the ceremony, leave. In the end, many Amazons would definitely choose to leave this country. After all, cruel warriors like Algana are just exceptions. The vast majority of children still have feelings. There will be fear, sadness, joy. But now the meaning of the existence of the Daokyo seems to have disappeared. Thinking of the cruel warriors who have become weak now, Kali continued to look like she had no desire to live. The two strongest children of hers no longer pursue fighting as purely as before. What should she do next? The goddess of war was rarely confused, and then she seemed to remember something. She asked the red-haired goddess in front of her. Loki, who is the man who easily knocked down my child? This was the doubt that Kali had when she first met the black-haired boy. She still can't forget the indifferent depth. There was no awe and admiration for the gods in her eyes, which was completely different from the other children in the lower world. As a goddess of war, the gods in the heavens who knew her would be afraid of this. No one or god could touch her. So the extremely bored Kali chose to go to the lower world, looking forward to seeing interesting things. When she met the boy, she had a certain novel feeling for the first time. The power displayed by the other party surprised her even more, and instantly crushed the rest of her followers. All this made her very interested in the boy who interrupted the ceremony. Hearing what Kali said before, Loki was about to give the brat in front of him a good beating. But the other party's doubts made her mouth slightly raised. The red-haired goddess looked at the female warrior with a face full of mockery and said, "Ha, even if you are hiding on an unknown island, you should know that boy. Although it's very unpleasant, but for those guys in Orario, he is hero." Kali's expression was stunned, and she didn't react to Loki's meaning for a short time. But she soon understood the meaning of the red-haired goddess' words. Oh, that man is the rumored hero. For some reason, the expression on Kali's face became inexplicably excited. Like a little girl who got a toy, full of satisfaction and joy. The name of hero is almost heard by everyone in the lower world today. There have been only a few adventurers who can be called heroes in the past thousands of years. Moreover, the lower world has already withered for a generation. Only the 4.8 is qualified to get this default title. After understanding the identity of the boy who defeated her, Kali's doubts were answered. No wonder her own 4.6 child couldn't stop him, so that's why. The development of things is really interesting, the strongest in the city. Perhaps it was because of her better mood. Kali later told Loki all about her deal with Ishtar's family. The goddess who longed for war seemed to be intent on provoking civil strife in Orario. In addition, she also wanted to meet the strongest boy in the city in person again. With the title of hero, could he defeat the malice of the goddess of beauty? Kali was very interested in this. Tisk. After understanding the cause of the matter, Loki was slightly unhappy and shocked. Sneered at the jealousy of a certain goddess. Although she and her old friend Freya had some conflicts in some aspects. But she didn't think Ishtar could pull her down from the Tower of Babel. If it weren't for the old friend in heaven who didn't care about everything in the lower world. As long as she wanted, the integrated Freya family would be the strongest. Without a doubt, the old friend's eyes were so outrageous. Although he just casually recruited members, he became the two kings of Orario. Of course, that was in the past. The situation in the Labyrinth City had long been broken by that perverted boy. The guy who overturned the past situation with just one person. In the hotel reserved by Loki, Sioran was lying on the bed in deep thought. He naturally understood the cause of the current turmoil, so he was not interested in asking Kali. As for why he didn't tell Loki. Simply put, he was lazy, and he also wanted to see the red-haired goddess's headache expression. It seemed unexpectedly interesting to cause trouble for her occasionally. Sioran never took this dispute seriously from beginning to end. It was just a relaxation in his spare time and a long-lost company with the twin sisters. After solving the incident in the port city, he originally planned to return directly, but was stopped by Dione and asked to stay today. Now there is still a long time before the full moon, and Sanyano Haruheim will not be in danger for the time being. So Sioran stayed in the hotel reserved by Loki's family. He didn't take the fox girl away directly before because he knew that the root of the problem had not been solved. As long as Ishtar doesn't disappear, she will never let the fox girl go. The ugly toad was able to fight with Ace briefly before. It was probably because of the fox girl's magic. The jealous W god will definitely not let go of such a special follower. Sanyano Haruheim must be one of her trump cards to challenge Freya's family. The magic that transcends levels is unheard of in the lower world. This is a magic that is enough to be called a miracle even in ancient times. Only by completely destroying the Ishtar family can the fox girl get real freedom. Sioran doesn't want to be harassed by the Ishtar family after taking Sanyano Haruheim away. Although they are not a threat at all, they will be disgusted. Let the Ishtar family disappear tomorrow night. Just when he made this decision, a soft body pounced on him. Shin. Because he was too familiar with the breath of the twins, he had not noticed her coming before. Sioran. Without a direct response, the Amazon hero quietly walked to the boy and whispered softly. The short characters contained emotions that made the air restless. At this moment, Dione was no longer as resolute as before, but full of tenderness of a girl. As Algana said before, she looked like a pure ordinary girl. The girl, whose heart had been pierced by him, could no longer suppress the excitement in her chest. After seeing this face engraved in her soul on the sailboat today, she was sure again. He was the partner she had chosen for life. Sioran looked at Chen in a rare state without saying a word. When she first walked into the room, the girl's smooth and soft face partially obscured her face. Then when Chen raised her head slightly, Sioran could clearly see the emotions overflowing in her eyes. Amazon is a race that pursues fighting, and has an innate instinct in its blood. This is why Kali chose to stay in Daokyo. After all, the entire Amazon race is full of bright red appeals. However, when they identify their future partners, the love in their hearts will be higher than the will to fight. Like a moth to a flame, they do not hide their feelings. Shin's good impression was full as early as the first meeting. What's more, now the boy has swept away the shadow that has always existed in her heart. This passionate love has become more pure, so that she can no longer suppress the surging in her heart. Everything will go with the flow next. Except Tiona, who suddenly broke in halfway. But Sioran is happy about this. The innocent girl didn't know what love was, but she followed her heart. Perhaps she had already conveyed her feelings from the moment she addressed the boy. Just like the hero story she heard for the first time, the Argonauts. The hero who reached out to her and her sister for the first time. Sioran woke up in a strange room for the second time, staring at the ceiling in front of him. Faced with this sense of déjà vu, he wondered if he should also say strange ceiling. The current popular scene was like some of the anime he had seen in his previous life. He now had a deep understanding of what kind of race Amazon was. Once they confirmed their partner, they would be devoted to him from then on. The loyalty and obsession with their lover could even completely suppress the desire for struggle in their blood. A hero who was strong in both body and mind. When facing an enemy, he could turn into a berserker without hesitation. Use his steel fists and weapons to coldly destroy any existence that tried to hinder their progress. This was especially true for the Amazons who grew up in Daokyo, as they had all experienced the pain of stepping over the corpses of their compatriots. Most of them can abandon their kindness and deal a devastating blow to their opponents. However, when they meet someone they recognize, they will be completely different. Frank and straightforward, not hiding their sincerity at all, they are powerful in every sense. Retracting his scattered thoughts, Sioran then gently stood up. I didn't expect that the 2 times he spent the night outside were related to Loki's family. Loki is really a good person. He also specially notified me that he just picked this lotus directly. Loki, damn it. You actually stole my home. Then he opened the window and felt the caress of the sea breeze. The sea breeze mixed with a light salty and humid smell made Sioran feel very comfortable. He also hasn't been to the port for too long, and now it's a good opportunity to look at the sea area after a long time. The procedures for leaving the maze city are too complicated, especially for senior adventurers. When he applied to the guild before, all the senior executives were alarmed and thought he was going to leave the maze city. So Sioran didn't bother to apply for it later, and he would just leave when he wanted to go out. No one could find his trace anyway. However, since most of his girls stayed in Orario, he didn't come out again. After recruiting girls from his family, this was one of his rare trips out of the city. Sioran. Not long after, Dione woke up first. Her eyes, which were still a little confused, suddenly became bright after seeing the familiar figure. She looked at the boy leaning on the windowsill involuntarily, with his short black hair draped over his forehead. The sea breeze kept messing up his hair like a naughty child. The perfect face was smiling gently as usual. The soul-attracting depth was staring at something unknown. Shin was staring at the boy with some obsession, and the breath he exuded at the moment made her intoxicated. You're awake, Nyana. Retracting his gaze from the distance, Sioran came to the girl's side. Looking at the girl who boldly showed her beauty, Sioran put his coat on her. Without any words, Shin just hugged him tightly. The girl who was always angry in front of her clan companions on weekdays dispelled all negative emotions at the moment. Give your purest and most passionate love to the only partner you recognize. Shin is so cunning. The awakened Shin broke the silent understanding between the two, and a little dissatisfaction appeared on her face. Then she also hugged him, competing for this reassuring warmth. You idiot, don't get in the way. Hey, what's the matter? I like Argonauts too. Seeing the Amazon sisters playing around, Sioran's expression softened. While Sioran was enjoying the tenderness of the twins, the atmosphere in a certain palace was completely the opposite. I didn't expect that little girl Kali would be completely useless. What a waste of my previous preparations. Why did the hero intervene in this battle? Is it because of Haruheim? Ishtar sat on the throne of the palace, looking down at her followers below. She had already learned from her followers what happened today. The plan that was originally carried out as expected was completely disrupted by the boy. She also lost a powerful helper, which made Ishtar unable to suppress her anger. Everything she did was to deal with Freya, and now someone wanted to break her plan. No. Absolutely not. No matter who it is, they can stop me from pulling down that damn woman in 1.6. Thinking of this, Ishtar's beautiful face gradually twisted. A trace of deep malice flashed in her eyes, and then she looked at the waiting members below and said, "Go and inform Apollo that I want to hunt the hero with him. Isn't this what that guy has always wanted?" Ignoring the hesitation of the followers below, Ida ordered the attendant beside him. Finally, under the frightened eyes of the group members, they walked into a wide space. The whole room is made of special boulders, and several people in robes are walking in it. In the center, there is a monster bound by countless chains. "Hero, can you defeat this bowl of heaven that I prepared disgustingly? Since you want to get in the way, then you and that woman will fall into the abyss together." Ista's purple eyes were full of darkness, and she looked coldly at the figure in the center. This is a monster similar to a cow, with strong and powerful limbs. The nostrils kept spewing hot air, and the air became hot because of it. Even if trapped, the whole space was filled with the suffocation it brought. It is worth noting. On the head of the bull with huge horns, there is a figure similar to a female body on the forehead. The robed people around are constantly feeding it, and magic power is gradually gathering in it. This is one of Ishtar's trump cards to start the war, facing the background of Freya's family brave man. The sudden intervention of the hero interfered with her original plan, so she planned to use the equally twisted male god. Even if his followers are useless, they can still be used as pawns. She didn't believe that so many preparations could not deal with an adventurer. One goddess of beauty is enough, and this maze city does not need heroes. All of them, disappear. Pictured is Shin. Chapter 101 Buried Together. The pink magic stone lamps scattered everywhere emit a hazy halo. Adventurers and gods walking on the street all have rippling smiles on their faces. Those who come here on purpose are basically men, and they all look around with fiery eyes. The calm eyes in the past are filled with ambiguous flames. Humans, elves, dwarfs, Amazons. Youths of various races stand at the door of the surrounding classical buildings. They are all covered with silk gauze, boldly showing their graceful figures. This is the Street of Desire. Fenjio Street under the night is filled with a joyful atmosphere, and all adventurers and youths are immersed in the sea of desire. However, the atmosphere is completely opposite to the outer area of the street. There is a special place deeper in Fenjio Street. There is no hustle and bustle of the outside world here, and it is full of silence. The top floor of a secluded building somewhere. There is a charming figure standing in front of her, and the red kimono cannot cover her beauty. But now it looks extremely deserted under the bright moonlight. The girl's golden hair is dancing with pure white, and the shining hair adds a touch of color to the dim room. The pitiful and peerless face shows obvious loneliness and expectation. The clear and transparent green is now looking at the bright moon hanging in the sky without a soul. The fluffy and soft golden fox tail behind her keeps swaying with the girl's thoughts. She is a childhood friend of Yamato and Chikusa, a foxman Sanyano Haruheim. The girl has lived alone in this attic for several years, and occasionally members of the family come. But most of them are just to complete the Lord's mission, except for that hero. When she was just sold to Fenjio Street by the female thief, Sanyano Haruheim thought she would become one of those youths. But after engraving Ishtar's favor, the goddess of beauty hid her deeply in this attic. She still remembers the fanaticism and darkness when the Lord saw her magic. Even now, she still felt chilled when she recalled it. Contrary to her beautiful appearance, the goddess was filled with deep malice. Sanyano Haruhime knew this clearly after just their first meeting. But she was powerless and could not make any resistance, so she could only accept it silently. The widest world she had seen in the past was brought by the close friend she met by chance when she was young. Now it is just back to the starting point, just like being in that suffocating high wall. In the years since she came to the Ishtar clan, 15 has been accompanied by the gentle and cold moonlight the most. Loneliness and desolation have long been the norm, and the cage has existed since she was born. Until today. Except for the Amazons in the clan, she has never seen anyone. Who is he? Sanyano Haruhime couldn't control the frenzy of thoughts in her mind. After returning to her familiar residence, the fox girl always thought of the black-haired boy she met during the day. Handsome appearance, attractive eyes, extremely strong presence. Obviously, I have never seen him, why would he say such a thing? I will save you. Although she was not very close to the boy at that time. But she still understood the meaning of what he had conveyed before, as if he did it deliberately. Why would he say such a thing to me? Sanyano Haruhime couldn't help asking repeatedly in her heart. There were doubts, but also some long-standing desire. The fox girl found it difficult to understand the deep meaning of the boy's words. It was just the first time they met, why would he say such a thing? Sanyano Haruhime, who had already decided to accept her fate, was inexplicably shaken. With complex and intertwined emotions. Then she got the boy's name from Aisha, who had always taken care of her. And the title that was privately accepted in the Maze City Hero. When she first learned the news, Sanyano Haruhime couldn't calm her restless mood at all. Until now, I have only been able to suppress the excitement on the surface. The current boiling in her chest is the best proof. The once dead heart lake was stirred up by the boy's brief words. I thought I had already let go of that extravagant hope, but I didn't expect it to still exist in the depths of my soul. Because she broke the tribute to the gods, she was driven out of the house by her father. Then she was captured by a female thief and eventually became a member of this romantic street. The freedom that others can get at their fingertips, she has never really obtained. Always beaten hard by the waves of fate, unable to follow its ups and downs. The time when she ran away from the mansion with her best friend when she was young is her most precious memory so far. That is the only freedom left in her life. Recalling the fragments of past memories, the fox girl's mouth curled up a gentle arc. The cold moonlight seemed to be much softer at this moment, and the warmth was visible. But thinking of her past experiences, Sanyano Haruhime couldn't help but deny it in her heart. It was like a humble expectation. Can the concubine who is always entangled by ominous things really be saved? Although they only looked at each other briefly, the words left by the boy continued to impact her heart. Especially after hearing Yingja talk about the boy's private title. Hero. This made the fox girl's mind constantly emerge with the books she had read in the Far East. The surging adventure story, the unknown magnificent scenery and the heroic story woven by fantasy. Everything made her yearn for it and made her happy. Before she met her friends, the people of the prefecture were the cage she had existed in since childhood. Her understanding of the world can basically only be obtained from books. The heavy loneliness always imprisoned her and made her almost suffocated. Until one day, she saw a fairy tale called Hero's Story. She was locked up by the high wall and her body and mind were extremely eager for the adventure and scenery in the fantasy story. The encounter between the hero and the princess, the fate of saving and being saved. All made her intoxicated, and lying in bed could not soothe her constantly excited heart. When she first arrived at Fenjio Street, Sanyano Haruhime had fantasized. If she could be saved by a hero like in a fairy tale. Take her to the world she longed for and usher in the unattainable freedom. How wonderful it would be! But the cruel reality behind her ruthlessly shattered her beautiful dream. What she actually faced was not the hero she longed for, but the dark malice. Except for Aisha, no one was really willing to communicate. Because she was not good at frontal combat, she could only play a supporting role. Therefore, in the Amazon family who advocated fighting, she was almost ridiculed and disdained by everyone. They looked down on themselves who were full of weak aura. They thought that apart from the level magic, she was just a weak person who needed to be taken care of everywhere. The Lord God would not care about this. After all, Ishtar only needed her magic. After understanding the current situation, Sanyano Haruhime gave up the fantasy in her heart and stopped thinking about the false future. People who were entangled by ominousness did not have this qualification and did not deserve to be saved by others. Now it was just a change of cage, from the once majestic mansion to this desolate attic. So she accepted her fate a long time ago. Even though she already knew the situation of the killing stone, she didn't have any extra emotions. She was unfortunate, an ominous person who would bring destruction to the hero. But today, the adult called hero said to her, "I will save you." It was as if fantasy shone into reality. A dazzling light appeared in the muddled life. The long-hidden thoughts in Sanyano Haruhime's heart were awakened. She was aware of the recent actions of the family members, and she also calmly accepted the upcoming fate. Even a little urgent. If she died, would she be able to gain true freedom? The long-standing desire may exist on the other side of death. She originally thought so. However, my mood was completely disturbed by that adult. The extravagant hope that should have been extinguished long ago was hiding in a depth that I didn't even know. Can I really be saved? Sanyano Haruhime asked herself again. The dryness in my heart was injected with a trace of life. After resolving the turmoil caused by the Kali clan and enjoying the enthusiasm of the twins, Sioran returned directly to the clan's residence the next day. After accepting the familiar condemnation of his own girl and the main god, he began his own actions. Waiting until the moonlight enveloped the maze city again, he quietly left the house. Tonight, he wants to hunt the gods. This time he didn't tell the girls of the clan. After all, the next battlefield is not something they can participate in. Although he is confident that he can protect his own girl, it is not the time to let them know. Therefore, this trip will be his personal time. Silently passing through the outer area of Fenjio Street, Sioran came to the magnificent palace. Ishtar seemed to intentionally raise the height of the palace. Therefore, the Temple of Whores in front of her is one of the tallest buildings in Orario except for the White Tower. But in Sioran's opinion, it seems a bit out of place. She tried to surpass a certain goddess who looked down on her, but was still limited by her own ability. It was really funny. Just as she stepped into Fenjio Street, the tranquility on the other side was also broken at the same time. The goddess of beauty on the top floor of the Tower of Babel showed her divine will for the first time. Freya never cared about Ishtar's jealousy. The other party's repeated fault-finding was a spice to kill boring time for her. When looking for her own partner, it would be okay to play with her occasionally. This is Freya's understanding of Ishtar. There is no disgust, just a plain look down. Just like the gods she met in heaven, she never took them seriously. Perhaps it is this calmness and vision that distinguish the gap between the two sides. This made Freya the queen standing on the top of Orario, while Ishtar was just a Wre in the city of desire. Goddess Freya. A hill-like figure appeared in the room, like a loyal hound waiting for the master's order. The warrior was still as calm as before, but there was a clear heat rising from his body. After receiving the goddess's notice, he knew what to do next. Don't worry about anything else, he is a wild boar of war. But in his heart, he once again confirmed the importance of hero to the goddess. He is her reverse scale, no doubt. Now the coldness and murderous intent emitted by the Lord God for the first time is the most powerful proof. Are all the members of the family here? Yes. Freya narrowed her eyes and saw that the glory she was obsessed with had entered that dirty area. Anger rose up in her heart, and her charm in the past turned into a chill that froze everything. That stupid god actually dared to touch her ode, damn it. Ishtar. I just treated the previous things as a joke, but this is the only thing that cannot be forgiven. The warrior who understood the Lord God's words left calmly, and then summoned all the members waiting for orders. Pick up your weapons. What we goddesses want to see is a feast on the battlefield. Destroy everything that blocks God's will. When Freya walked out of the Tower of Babel, there were warriors from her family ready to go in front of her. The powerful pigmen, the unruly chariots, the elegant black and white elves. The core combat power of Freya's family was all assembled, and they faithfully fulfilled the Lord God's orders. Then the goddess walked elegantly in front, and the sound of the golden sword sounded behind her. At the same time as the strongest family in the city set off. Sioran also walked into Ishtar's temple, without any intention of hiding. Start advancing from the front and defeat any adventurer who tried to stop him. Ignoring the fear of the Amazon lying on the ground, he walked leisurely to the upper level. At this moment, Ishtar, who was on the top floor, suddenly saw that the war broke out around Fengio Street almost at the same time. The originally decadent atmosphere here was completely broken in the blink of an eye. The previous ocean of desire turned into a vortex of frenzied struggle. At the same time, someone below also reported that the hero was heading straight to the top floor. Damn it, why did the hero come so fast? And what's going on in Fengio Street, where did everyone go? The successive accidents made Ishtar lose her composure, and her previous calmness was no longer there. There was a hint of uneasiness growing rapidly in her heart, and things were going in the direction she least wanted to see. The premise of all her plans was that she took the initiative to launch an offensive. At present, 460 had not reached the best time at all. However, it was now. Not only did the hero inexplicably provoke a war, but her own forces were also dragged into the war. The sudden attack completely disrupted her plan. Go, release the bull of heaven for me. Also, call Apollo down here. Suppressing the panic in her heart, Ishtar thought of many countermeasures, and finally decided to reveal the trump card in advance. Hearing the news from downstairs, the hero came alone. If so, even if it was not a full moon night, she still had the possibility of winning. Fortunately, Apollo happened to come to the banquet today, so she just took this opportunity to join hands with him to take down the hero. Even if that kid was powerful, Ishtar didn't believe that he could face the siege of hundreds of adventurers. In addition, the terrifying bull of heaven could not stop him. When the necessary moment came, let Haruheim cast magic on the bull. Any existence that tried to stop her plan had to disappear, even if he was the strongest in the city. Thinking of this, Ishtar calmed down a little. Her face returned to her usual calmness, and there was even a hint of smile on the corner of her mouth. It seems that he has seen the light of his victory. Sioran, who was walking in the Temple of Horus, naturally discovered the flames of war everywhere in Fengio Street. Ignoring the distance, he saw the badge of the electrician raging in the night of the Street of Desire. The side profile of the Valkyrie bordered with gold jewelry. In the whole of Orario, no one does not recognize this conspicuous symbol. After all, it belongs to the top faction in the Labyrinth City. Seeing the unexpected disruptor, Sioran was a little confused. He came to destroy the Ishtar clan with the purpose of saving people. What is the purpose of the people of Freya clan coming here? Well, who cares, as long as he doesn't get in the way. After he couldn't figure it out, he was too lazy to think too much, and Sioran continued to walk leisurely to the top floor. On the stairs behind him, many members of the Ishtar clan fell down. He didn't kill them all, and some people had not yet completely fallen into the charm of the goddess. Just like Amazons like Aisha, they have a pretty good will. So he spared their lives. As for Ishtar's diehards, of course, they could only die, since their main god would soon follow them anyway. When Sioran arrived at the top floor, Ishtar was waiting for him with the remaining members of the family. But what surprised him a little was that there were adventurers from other families here. The Sun Badge was obviously a member of the Apollo family. He sensed the undisguised gaze of a male god from the other family. Sioran's face was unhappy for the first time in a long time. It was fine to be stared at by Freya, the goddess of beauty. What the hell is a male god looking at you like this? At the same time, he also confirmed the other party's identity, the perverted god who was rumored to be attractive to both men and women. In this case, just bury them together. Sorry friends, I took my family to the hospital for a checkup today. I'm in a bad state recently, and I'm a little upset because I revised the previous chapter many times. Chapter 102, Go Save You Now. When Sioran appeared on the top floor of the Temple of Horus, the surroundings suddenly became silent. The members of the Ishtar clan and the Apollo clan present knew what they would face. That was a miracle person who had surpassed the cognition of gods and adventurers since ancient times. The strongest hero in the city. Before, they had some inexplicable confidence after seeing the large number of companions gathered around them. They thought that even the hero of 4.8 should not be able to defeat so many people. Instead, they were looking forward to pulling the strongest person in the city off the altar. Therefore, the panic and fear in their hearts were covered by this excitement. However, when this figure actually stood in front of them, the adventurers in the field realized how naive and ridiculous their previous fantasies were. The hero had just appeared here, and they felt an invisible pressure. The heartbeat frequency was constantly accelerating, and the breathing rhythm also became disordered unconsciously. The original thoughts completely dissipated, leaving only instinctive awe and fear. The senses of adventurers who have been wandering between life and death for many years are constantly reminding them. Die, 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 die. This stinging feeling, like facing a natural enemy, is constantly stimulating their sensitive nerves. The shadow of death is quietly emerging in their hearts, and the suppressed fear is surging like a tide. Ho 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 ho. Did the hero come here specifically for my beautiful old lady? However, there are always some weirdos who do things beyond normal people. Completely different from the other adventurers who are afraid from the bottom of their hearts. Frynai's ugly face is full of disgusting excitement, and her tone is full of complacency. Ignoring the surprised and disgusted eyes of the people around him. This toad with a very ugly appearance seems to really think that he is very beautiful. Even better than his own main god, so he thinks that the hero who came here deliberately is also fallen for this. A little liquid began to appear at the corners of Frynai's grinning mouth, emitting a certain stench. Staring eagerly at the boy opposite. Hearing such disgusting words, Sioran's gentle smile remained unchanged. But a hint of coldness gradually emerged in his eyes, and the air in the field froze. The temperature around was dropping at an alarming speed, and the chill that even the senior adventurers could not resist was spreading. The already cold night became even more chilling at this time. Wow! Then, in the eyes of everyone's fear, Frynai, who had been full of crazy smiles before, could no longer make any sound. The original sharp and piercing laughter was interrupted. The fear in the eyes and the madness on the face were frozen in an instant. Before reacting to the current situation, the man-killer of 4.5 turned into an ice sculpture in an instant in the sight of everyone. Then, shattered. It was just a simple look. Frynai, the strongest among them, fell into this end in the blink of an eye. Died silently in an extremely weird way. Seeing this heart-wrenching scene, the people of the Ishtar family and the Apollo family temporarily lost their language function. They could not understand the scene in front of them at all, and saw nothing. In just a blink of an eye, the first-level adventurer was quietly killed. When did the adventurer standing at the top of the maze city become so weak? I am dreaming. Everyone present couldn't help but wonder if they were in a dream. No matter what, it was difficult to accept the facts that happened before. Although they were extremely disgusted and repulsive to Phryne. But there was one thing that could not be denied. That was her strength, which was indeed at the top of Orario.5. However, such a powerful adventurer was killed directly by the hero at a glance. There was no magic fluctuation, but Jane turned into an ice sculpture in front of them. Such a dramatic scene. Everyone's thoughts suddenly fell into confusion, and they couldn't believe what was happening. Damn you, kid! You broke into my base without permission and killed Phryne. Are you trying to stir up a quarrel between the two clans? Ishtar's calmness, which she had finally recovered, was instantly broken. Even though she knew that heroes were people who tore apart common sense. But everything that happened briefly before still made her feel stunned and angry. She didn't expect the boy opposite her to say nothing. He took the life of her clan leader without mercy. Even though she herself had no good feelings towards the ugly toad. But this action in front of her and Apollo made Ishtar feel humiliated. The other party obviously ignored them and did not care about the majesty of the gods at all. Such a situation made her past preparation seem like a joke. The silent slap slapped Ishtar's face crisply. It shattered all her dignity and pride in the past. It made the W god hate her mad. Well. I call you Chunji, okay. Hearing the boy's gentle words, the fox girl standing behind the Amazon trembled slightly. Ignoring Ishtar's question, Sioran looked at the delicate figure. His original target was the fox girl, and the rest were just incidental. As for Ishtar's anger? What does that have to do with him? She is just a W god in Yindu. If he didn't want to cause inconvenience to his own girl, he would have destroyed her directly during the day. Now, except for the great gods like Uranus, he doesn't care too much about the other gods. They will only become his nourishment and food for evolution. Ignoring Ishtar's distorted expression, Sioran continued to say to Sanyano Haruheim. You are a friend of Ming and Chikuza, so you are also my friend. I am here to fulfill my promise to take you away from here, Haruheim. As the familiar name came into her ears, the fox girl finally knew why the boy came to save her. I didn't expect it to be related to her former best friend. However, her long-term experience made her afraid, and she was hesitant to hold the hand that was stretched out to her. Even though a strong desire was rising in her heart. You damn kid, what are you talking about there? The humiliation of being ignored completely overwhelmed Ishtar's reason. She chose to directly launch her charm and completely manipulate the followers around her. The members of Ishtar's family, who were confused by the Lord God, abandoned the fear in their hearts. They attacked the boy in front of them and carried out Ishtar's will. Haruheim, tell me. Do you want freedom? Do you hope to be saved by me? Ignoring the Amazons attacking from all around, Sioran looked at the timid and slender figure a little seriously. Waiting for her response. Do you want freedom? Do you want salvation? The boy's calm words severely stimulated the already numb heart of Sanyano Haruheim. The scene that I had imagined countless times in the past has now actually happened. The hero in the fairy tale has now truly arrived in reality and reached out his hand. Such a dreamlike scene made Sanyano Haruheim's body tremble slightly. It seemed like joy, but also like unbelievable. The fox girl raised her head that had been lowered for a long time, and her face was already full of transparent crystals without knowing when. Her pitiful expression made people feel pity. But her green eyes flashed with a firm brilliance that had never been seen before. A touch of desire appeared on her slightly broken beauty, and the girl answered with a trembling voice. She said the desire that had been buried for who knows how long. I want to live and want to be saved by you. Okay, I will go to save you now. Hearing this, Sioran's smile became real. He was very satisfied with the fox girl's answer. If he didn't have the desire to survive, what he brought back would be just an empty shell. He naturally saw that the girl had already decided to die. That's why he said this. It was both a stimulus and an inquiry. Although he would take the girl away no matter what. But whether she was qualified to stay in the Hestia family still needed to be determined. With the growth of strength, he currently had very high requirements for the selection of family members. The fox girl's temporary magic level improvement was good. But in Sioran's view, it was not necessary. He valued is something deeper. As for improving the strength of his girl, even now he has many ways. Not to mention he can travel through different worlds in the future. Therefore, what he cares about is not the girl's qualifications, but her will. Fortunately, Sanyano Haruim's answer at the moment made Sioran quite satisfied. At least she still has the courage to struggle and still yearns for freedom. So the next thing to do is very simple, just push everything here. The picture shows Sanyano Haruim. The re-examination result is good, the author will adjust the status and resume the update. The stone in my heart has not fallen for the past few days, and now I feel at ease. Thank you friends for your continued support. Chapter 103, A Little Bit Stronger. Accompanying the Master's will. An exaggerated magic storm suddenly rose in the field and swept away wantonly. The atmosphere kept making a tearing wail under this violence. The entire top floor was completely shrouded in a terrifying atmosphere. This was just the result of Sioran's deliberate control. After all, he didn't want to make a big fuss. At the same time, he also planned to see what other tricks the W god on the opposite side had. Crushing her carefully prepared trump cards bit by bit, witnessing the other party's various embarrassments. Tearing apart the false appearance of the gods who were high above was also one of Sioran's bad tastes. He was very curious. What would the expression of the protagonist who thought he was in control of the overall situation be after he became a clown on the stage? It must be more interesting, and now it is obvious that it has been seen. How is it possible? Ishtar's distorted face stopped, and she looked at the boy in the field in disbelief. But it was only a moment, and she and Apollo's followers all knelt on the ground. It seemed that the other party did not let them suffer the same fate deliberately. The humiliation and anger of being played with completely devoured Ishtar's twisted heart. But in addition to that, there was also deep astonishment. Although she knew that the hero was the only 4.8 in the Labyrinth City. But this level of magic power was too exaggerated. The strength shown by the boy completely exceeded her expectations. Next to Ishtar, Apollo, who originally had a perverted smile, was no longer as calm as before. The twisted smile stopped under the almost suffocating breath storm. The morbidity on his face and the fear that could not be hidden in his eyes solidified at the same time. Even though the other party intended to control it, his body still trembled under this pressure. It formed a strong contrast with the previous one, which made people laugh. Most of their gods have been sealed with their divine power. If they are not extremely powerful battle-type main gods, the rest are basically the same as ordinary people, and naturally cannot resist adventurers. Moreover, they are facing the strongest hero in the Labyrinth City today. Before this, neither Apollo nor Ishtar had considered one thing. That is whether they themselves would be involved in this battle. Now the two gods have got a definite answer. The storm that now covers the entire battlefield is the most direct proof. Does this child want to kill gods? This horrifying thought rose in the minds of Apollo and Ishtar at the same time. Only gods can deal with gods, which is a long-standing rule in the lower world. The act of killing gods is regarded as a taboo by all races, and no one has dared to break it so far. Even though most of the divine power is sealed, the noble nature of the gods remains unchanged. The people of the lower world may disdain and hate the behavior of some gods. but they will never have the idea of killing gods, which is a thought stamp engraved in the soul. In a world where fantasy and reality are intertwined, no one will not be full of awe for gods. After all, in the long years in the past, they were all transcendent races sitting on the clouds. Looking down at the changes in the world of the lower world, only the gods themselves remain unchanged. However, it is unfortunate. The people standing in front of the two gods tonight are not ordinary adventurers. They are travelers from outside the world. Sioran has never regarded gods as such a high-level existence. They are just a race with a higher level of evolution, that's all. Although Apollo's appearance surprised him a little, it didn't matter. Before coming to the temple of God, he had already prepared for this hunt. Hey, it seems that even your not-so-smart brains can understand. Seeing the changes in the expressions on Ishtar and Apollo's faces, Sioran's mouth rose with a cold smile. Now the two of them must have understood his plan. It's really as arrogant as imagined. For most gods who have long overlooked the lower world, everything is just a game. Tormented by boredom, they chose to descend after knowing the passage to the lower world. In order to adapt to the life of their people, they also deliberately adjusted their bodies. However, the arrogance hidden in the souls of most gods has never disappeared. In terms of physical fitness, they may not be as good as ordinary adventurers. But the pride of gods makes them still look down on everything in the lower world. Many gods wantonly use their followers as tools and distort their will. Let the members of the family live according to their own will like puppets. Never care about the children's thoughts. This is the willfulness of most gods, and it is their arrogance deep in their bones. Apollo and Ishtar in front of them are obviously this kind of gods. They always act recklessly and never thought that one day they would face the sharp knives of children in the lower world. Anyway, no matter how excessive they do, they are still the gods high above the heaven. Any existence in the lower world cannot have the slightest influence on them. It is precisely because of this that Sioran feels mocking. Later, he will let these two arrogant gods know that gods are just a stronger species. They are just immortal and will not perish. Damn kid, you are disrespectful to gods like us. Hearing the boy's straightforward disdain, Ishtar let out an extremely piercing roar like a wild cat whose tail was stepped on. The originally dignified face became increasingly ferocious, and then she shouted at a certain place with all her strength. Let it out for me. As soon as the god finished speaking, the room deep in the top floor suddenly opened. Accompanied by the violent trampling sound, the tyrannical breath first spread out. The malice hidden in the shadows was revealed. The lower body was like the sturdy limbs of a bull, and the thick iron hooves were constantly trampling the ground. The powerful blow made the originally smooth rock full of shatters. Different from the pure monster below. There is a half-body similar to a female body on the forehead of its upper body. The monster body of about 2 meters high does not match the delicate female body at the top at all. A strange sense of disharmony permeated the entire top floor. The uninformed members of the Ishtar family and the Apollo family all stared at the monster behind them in a daze. Most of the followers of the two gods did not know of its existence. Only Ishtar and some core members knew that this was a gift from the Dark faction. Similar to the fallen fairy spirit clone that appeared on the 59th floor, this time it appeared directly on the surface. The monster's powerful momentum continued to impact everyone in the field. When this bull of heaven walked out of the cage, the core members of the Freya family who attacked Fengio Street all sensed this breath. Cruel, tyrannical. Even if they did not come into contact with it, they all felt a kind of oppression from the level. Except for the calm and powerful warriors. Oda. The goddess of beauty called softly, her tone filled with chilling chill. Yes. The brave man who understood the will of God brought all the first-level adventurers of the clan to escort the goddess of beauty and rushed directly to Ishtar's palace. No need to say more. Wherever the will of the Lord God points, the blades of the warriors will point. ruthlessly destroy any obstacles that attempt to block along the way. The prosperous Fengyao street in the past was full of lust and joy. Now, with the intrusion of the strongest clan, only fear and panic are left. Collapsed buildings, tragic wailing, and wars everywhere. The forces that Ishtar was proud of were all vulnerable in front of the real queen of the city. You really dare to do it, Ishtar. The moment Sioran saw the fallen fairy's clone, he was sure that the W god and the dark faction must have colluded. Or in other words, he had reached a cooperation with the fallen fairy's original body and the evil god behind the dark faction. This made him once again have a deep understanding of the goddess's jealousy. In order to pull Freya down from the top of the Tower of Babel. Even if the whole of Orario was dragged into the abyss, Ishtar in front of him didn't seem to care. It's really ugly. Through the previous magic storm, Jiran had brought Chunji back to his side. At this time, he was looking at his goal tonight indifferently. Ishtar's current face has nothing to do with the goddess of beauty. The ugly and deep jealousy almost devoured everything around her. Various unexpected events that went beyond her plan made her almost lose all her reason. Only that dark depth did not disappear, but accumulated even more heavily. The jealous goddess has never felt that the strongest hero in the city is so annoying as she does now. Seeing Ishtar in this state. Even Apollo, who was also a god beside her, felt that he was not crazy enough. The first to break the silence was the fallen immortal avatar. The untied bull of heaven rushed towards Sioran head-on. It was extremely sensitive to magic power and directly locked onto the human in front of it. Even though the magic storm had subsided, it could still feel its source. The huge difference in nature made the beast completely unaware of the threat. Eat him. The bull had only this thought in its mind, and its greedy instinct kept driving it forward. Seeing this, Ishtar showed joy on her face. She was originally worried that the bull of heaven would lose control. Now seeing it heading towards the figure she hated, a happy smile rose on her face. Just go, eat that damn kid for me. Lord Sioran. It's all my fault. I am an ominous person who will only bring you destruction. The violent aura of Heavenly Bull constantly stimulated the fox girl's 5 senses. With only 4.1, she could hardly judge the situation on the battlefield. Compared with the gentle boy beside her, the bull galloping at high speed was obviously more oppressive. So she thought that the monster in front of her was irresistible. Therefore, the shining light in Sanyano Haruim's eyes gradually dimmed. The previously excited heart slowly calmed down, as if returning to the dead silence of the past. As expected, it was difficult for her to be redeemed, but there was only one thing she absolutely could not accept. Then, in Sioran's astonished eyes, this fox girl, who had always been cowardly, stood in front of him. She opened her weak little hands and faced the attacking bull courageously. Even though her body was constantly trembling, even though her heart was tortured by fear, she never retreated a step and uttered her own unique roar of the weak. Sanyano Haruheim showed her strong will for the first time. No longer silently bearing it as before, she took the initiative to express her own thoughts. Please, please leave, Lord Sioran. Here, Chunji will block it. When she said the latter part, the fox girl's voice couldn't help but tremble. However, the boiling excitement in her heart overcame everything, making her stand firmly in front. Since she was a fox spreading misfortune, it would be better to end it here. But at least let this hero leave safely. Sioran was rarely silent for a while, and looked at the trembling enchantress in front of him with a strange look. He was very surprised that such surging courage was hidden in this delicate body. The development of things was beyond his expectation, but he felt happy and appreciated it from the bottom of his heart. It was because he met such an excellent girl that he enjoyed his journey. Nothing can be more gorgeous than the shining light of the soul. Very beautiful, Chunji. Sioran admired from the bottom of his heart, and then pulled the fox girl in front of him into his arms. I may be a little bit stronger than you think. The young man made the corresponding gesture, and a calm arc rose at the corner of his mouth. Chapter 104, How Arrogant. Ext. Sanyano Haruhime, who was in the arms of the opposite S*X for the first time, did not have any idea of rejection. On the contrary, the fox girl felt a little confused at this time. She was more at a loss and a touch of joy. The boy's sudden action forcefully broke into the fox girl's heart. The fear and tension she had faced in front of the fierce bull seemed to have all dissipated. His gentle voice seemed to have some natural magic. It made people believe it involuntarily, and gently soothed the negative emotions growing in their hearts. Feeling the warmth coming from her skin, Sanyano Haruhime could not describe her current mood. In her past life, she had never been embraced by someone like this. What's more, it was a person of the opposite S*X, a hero who came out of fantasy. $7. What was flowing in the fox girl's heart at this moment was completely opposite to the fear she had faced in front of the fierce bull before. It was a kind of comfort and happiness that was like spring rain moistening dryness. Even if I died here, I would be satisfied. Sanyano Haruhime murmured quietly in her heart, and stopped thinking about other things. She just wanted to feel the happiness of being embraced by someone for the first time. It's okay, it will be over soon. The scene in front of her reminded Sioran of a cute elf girl. The gentleness on her face was a little more intense, and then she looked at the monster rushing towards her head. For the adventurers in the labyrinth city. The half-human, half-bull fallen fairy spirit clone in front of her was indeed not weak, and it had obviously reached 4.7. In the entire Orario, except for Ota who could easily ravage it. The other first-level adventurers had to be on high alert when facing it alone. Such a powerful bull would be a nightmare if it appeared anywhere on the surface of the earth. It has the power to crush most of the adventurers in the labyrinth city. Unfortunately, the person that heavenly bull is facing now is not an adventurer. It is an alien who is beyond common sense and whose essence is gradually surpassing the gods. Sioran casually looked at the roaring bull. Compared with the female worm that Aisi and the others encountered on the 59th floor, it belongs to another type. The fallen fairy clone on the 59th floor has perfect control ability. It has both solid defense and exaggerated magic bombardment. It belongs to the magic enhancement type. The bull in front of him is obviously very different from it. Tough skin, strong and powerful limbs, stupid head-on collision. All this shows that Heavenly Bull is a power enhancement type. Its attack form is relatively simple, and it can't be compared with the comprehensive female worm on the 59th floor. Even though their ability values have reached V.7. However, in terms of team strategy, the one on the 59th floor is obviously more difficult. Even if there is a home advantage, it is also a fact that it almost suppressed the Loki family throughout the whole process. If Sioran and the girls of her own family were not there at that time, Aisi and the others would definitely pay a heavy price to win that battle. The bombardment wizards protected by guards are the core of the battle in the group war. The Bull of Heaven tends to be a straightforward warrior, and the female worm is a calm wizard. Of course, they are all toys that Sioran can easily dismantle. Compared with the fierce bull that launched the attack, he cares more about the fox girl in his arms. He has witnessed the courage hidden in the delicate body of Sanyano Haruhime. If he saved her before because of the girls in his family. But now it is different. The will shown by the fox girl before has been recognized by him. Even if it is difficult to fight, she will still roar at the strong. Ignoring the level difference between the two sides, suppressing the fear of monsters in his heart. Previously, the shining light of Sanyano Haruhime's soul deeply attracted Sioran. Now, her personal charm alone is worth his special rescue. Roar. The violent roar interrupted the thoughts that were spreading suddenly. The air was torn by the huge horns of the fierce bull, and the ground was also shattered under the trampling of its iron hooves. With high killing intent, the Bull of Heaven is already in sight. Many people from the Ishtar family and the Apollo family are trembling uncontrollably. Even if the monster is not attacking them, it is difficult to suppress the erosion of instinct. This is the performance of the weak facing the natural enemy. The breathing rhythm and blood flow frequency are gradually disordered. The cold sweat on the body has long soaked the protective gear that they were proud of in the past. Just the aftermath of the impact of the fierce bull's momentum made them almost faint. It is impossible to imagine what it would feel like to face it head-on. It's too scary. How can such a monster be resisted? At the same time, perhaps it was also sensing the rage that was about to rush in. Many of Sanyano Haruim's golden hair stood up straight. Orcs have extremely keen senses in all five senses and can clearly perceive emotions such as murderous intent. Although currently in an intoxicating warmth, Sanyano Haruheim can still notice the undisguised mania and coldness. This made her shrink her body inwards. "It's okay, leave everything to me, Haruheim." He gently stroked the fox girl's smooth hair to relieve her inner tension. "Well, Rua." She even couldn't let go of it, completely ignoring the monster that was close at hand. Affected by the monster's violent murderous aura, Sanyano Haruim's originally uneasy heart gradually returned to calm under the boy's gentle words. What an incredible adult, if it was him. The fox girl secretly raised her pretty face with a blush. Her pure and flawless face already had a touch of intoxicating charm. When she saw the boy's current expression, a trace of confusion flashed in her green eyes. There was no fear or publicity, only a calm and confident smile on the corner of his mouth. Sanyano Haruheim had a feeling that he would remain like this even if he faced the collapse of the sky and the crack of the earth. It seemed that nothing in the world could shake his will in the slightest. Gradually, the fox girl's eyes were filled with obsession. She couldn't fully express her feelings at the moment, but there was only one thing that was certain. That was that she was very yearning and extremely looking forward to the hero in front of her. It was as if he was the freedom she had longed for a long time. "Damn it, how is it possible?" The hoarse voice pulled the fox girl back to her thoughts. It seemed to be the goddess Ishtar, the main god of the clan. The beautiful goddess who was always confident and proud in the past, now her voice was even a little harsh to Sanyano Haruheim. With inexplicable curiosity, the fox girl turned her head. Then the expression on her face immediately became dull, and her mouth couldn't help but open slightly. Surprise and confusion were reflected in her jade-like eyes. On the current battlefield, the exaggerated horn of the Bull of Heaven was being held back by a seemingly weak finger. The long accumulated impact of the bull was easily taken by someone. There was no fierce battle as imagined, only the absurd scene in front of everyone. But none of them could laugh out loud, and could only stare at everything happening in front of them. The huge horn exuding a fierce aura and the white and slender fingers. Such a weird scene made everyone present feel like they were still in a dream. The extremely horrified Ishtar couldn't suppress the bad emotions in her heart. She yelled directly, completely losing her former calmness and rationality. Even the heroes of 4.8 were too unbelievable. The bull that made them tremble was simply blocked by it. Roar, roar, roar. The roar of Bull of Heaven was filled with terrifying cruelty. Unable to understand the current situation, the bull chose to continue to follow its instincts. The swift collision just now was blocked, making it even more manic. Although it didn't know how the weak guy in front of it could resist its attack. But it didn't prevent the bull from boiling with anger at this moment. The monster, who had no reason to begin with, was now acting only on the instinct of the monster. It planned to completely crush the tiny human in front of it. Roar, roar. Accompanied by a roar that shook the floor, Bull of Heaven attacked again. The powerful iron hoofs ruthlessly trampled the ground, and the magnificent palace had already been completely unrecognizable. The luxurious decorations around were shattered into debris under multiple violent impacts. However, it was completely different from the objects that were shattered around him. The thin figure in the field still stood firm. It was like an unreachable peak, difficult to cross. Huff huff. The bull of heaven was emitting amazing heat from its nostrils. The scarlet pupils were full of murderous intent and doubts. It was useless, and none of it worked. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't move forward at all. The iron hooves that he was proud of, the fierce horns that split mountains and rocks, seemed to have become weak and powerless at this moment. He was such a tiny human being, a weakling that would be shattered if he was approached lightly. But he drew a deep and invisible gap in front of him. "Who the hell are you? How could an adventurer do this?" Ishtar yelled wildly, as if she was expressing the thoughts of everyone present. The goddess' temperament was gone. She stared at the boy fiercely like a shrew. What happened before her eyes was unbelievable, and she didn't want to believe it. She knew the strength of the bull of heaven, which was one of her trump cards against the fierce one. However, her treasured trump card seemed so weak and powerless at the moment. She kept struggling helplessly in front of the hero, which was not in line with her plan at all. The boy's exaggerated strength completely exceeded her expectations, which made Ishtar deny it in her heart. It was impossible, absolutely impossible for anyone to reach this level, even if it was 4.8. She could accept it even if the opponent killed the bull in seconds. But what was actually happening now was a fight like playing. No magic was used, and no weapons were taken out. With just one finger, the bull that reached 4.7 could be played with at will.